Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Anjali. Good morning, Anil. Thank for joining on time. Let's begin for today's reading. So this week we are last week we have read about the different colored streets of the characters, and today this week, since we started this week, we are reading about how certain colored people are perceived with other people. The last 2 days we have covered how red people perceived and how yellow people perceived and how green people perceived with that. A lot of examples from author. Now today we are starting how blue people are perceived. I will start reading and please type your name in the chat section so that we can continue. All good?
Yeah,
Super. Hope I am clearly audible and you can see the screen. Everything perfect?
yeah,
Great. How blue people are perceived. Even perfectionist blue individuals receive criticism. It can be about how they are perceived as evasive, defensive, perfectionist, reserved, fastidious, meticulous, hesitant, conservative, lacking independence, questioning, suspicious, tedious, aloof, and cold hearted. Oof. The list of shortcomings found in these bastions of bureaucracy often tends to be quite long, but mainly, blues find it difficult to begin anything new because they want to prepare very thoroughly. Everything involves risks, and blues can be almost obsessed with details. Never place too many blues in the same group. They will plan into the next country without ever putting a shovel to the ground. Furthermore, many blues are perceived as highly critical and almost suspicious. They miss nothing, and they have a tendency to deliver their observations in an insensitive fashion. They create quality work, but their hair splitting, critical approach to almost everything lowers the morale of those around them to dangerously low levels. These are people who consider themselves to be realists when they, in everyone else's eyes, are in fact pessimists. 95% right is actually 100% wrong. Let's be honest from the start. All this keeping track of facts and focusing on details can go too far. There are limits to when it's reasonable to keep researching. Do you remember the CEO who wanted to buy leadership training? He never left the starting block. No, he never left the starting block. Blues want to have all the information on everything, and this can lead to problems with those around them. People who would be satisfied with good enough simply can't cope up, can't cope with hearing all those questions and all this relentless poking into details. A blue believes that good enough is never really good enough. I enjoy working around the house, changing the decor, hanging wallpaper every now and then. A few years ago, we remodeled our kitchen, and even though I got tremendous help from my family, I did quite a lot myself. I worked and toiled and was quite happy when it was finished. For a do it yourselfer, I thought I managed it quite well. Hans, a good friend of mine, came by. We have known each other for many years, and he is very much on the ball. He knew that I had worked very hard and that I felt quite pleased with myself. When he came into my kitchen, he looked around and said quietly, "New kitchen? Looks good. That cupboard door is crooked." Okay, so maybe it was nice to hear that. But for Hans, it was the highest form of logic. He observed a mistake and his sense of perfection mean he observed a mistake and his sense of perfection mean that he couldn't ignore it. Besides, he is not a typical relational person, so he couldn't help saying things as they were. He was not directly criticizing me, only something I had done, namely not fitting the cupboard door straight. Fastidiousness can be expressed in various ways. It can be a person who can't cope with papers that are not perfectly aligned on a desk, who rewrites an email about 15 times to get it truly perfect, or who works for hours on a simple Excel spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation, just giving it the finishing touches. They never finish anything. There is always more to do. Once I was holding a communication training program for a group of people, all of who all of who were working in the same room. The group consisted of about 20 people. The first afternoon, I handed out the results of the behavior analysis that each of them had taken earlier. Everyone read about themselves with increasing fascination, and most of them seemed very satisfied. Except for one lady. She was extremely upset by her analysis. It was, in fact, completely incorrect. After confirming with her that it was okay to discuss it in front of the whole group, I asked what it was she was displeased with. There is so much that's incorrect, she told us. For example, the analysis revealed that she could be a perfectionist. She wasn't like that at all. I noticed the tiny smiles appearing on people's faces. Apparently, her colleagues knew something she didn't. I asked her why she thought that the analysis maintained she was a perfectionist. She had no idea. The whole thing was a completely the whole thing was a complete mystery. It was a totally useless tool. Realizing that the woman was blue, I was careful not to argue too much. She wouldn't take me at my word. I was just some random consultant who had been working with this tool for a mostly 20 years. What did I know? Instead, I asked her to give an example showing that she was not perfectionist. No problem, she had plenty. For example, she had three children, each of who had three best pals. When she came home in the evening, there were so many shoes piled up inside the front door that she had to do the high jump to get in. She began by shaking the dirt off the doormat and putting the shoes in order. She confided she confided in me that she used to put size 10 at the back, as those guys went home last, so it seemed most logical. She placed the smaller sizes closer to the door in neat rows. Then she went into the kitchen. What did she see there? Crumbs everywhere. All of these youngsters had been eating sandwiches, and the kitchen looked like a war zone. It took her 20 minutes to sanitize everything, put everything back in place, sweep, wipe the tables and worktops. Only then could she take off her coat and relax a little. Her colleagues were in stitches. The woman looked around, not understanding what the excitement was all about. That any of this could even be remotely obsessive was beyond her. That house was so untidy. That was the point. The funny thing about this story is that a few years later, I met the same woman, but in a totally different context. She gave me a big hug and said that the analysis of her behavior was 100% correct. Stunned, I wondered how she arrived at the conclusion. It turned out that she had kept the behavior profile in her past for a while. The analysis had a list of behaviors and qualities, and every time she found herself doing one, tick it off on the sheet. In the end, she had ticked all of them off. She liked the profile. An amazing tool on the whole. Okay, with this, I hand over to Anjali. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. I don't really know you, so keep your distance. You have done it. I have done it. We have all done it. Gone up to a person who seems to be a decent fellow and started talking about this and that, thinking you are going to have a nice chat. After a while, you realize that you are the one doing all the talking. If you have yellow traits in your behavior, yeah, you may notice that there are strange pauses in the dialogue. If there really is a dialogue, you may notice that the other person fidgets a bit, signaling that he doesn't want to be part of this conversation. What's going on? We are just talking about we are just talking about the game yesterday or about what the family did last summer or where you intend to go on vacation. Do we have a problem or what? Yes, in fact, we do, because this person doesn't willingly speak with strangers. Wait a minute, you may say. We have been working together for 3 months, and by now it should be perfectly okay to ask what his dog's name is. But this guy requires a lot of personal space, both physically and psychologically. He needs to know a person extremely well before opening up. Not like a red who lets out with whatever he feels, not like a yellow who reveals his darkest secrets because he assumes that everyone is interested, or like a green who can be personal but only in small groups and in a controlled environment. A blue doesn't need small talk. He can easily give the impression that he doesn't care about other people because he doesn't cultivate any relationships. Sure, he cares, but his needs are on a different level than everyone else's. He likes being in his own company and with immediate family. The consequence is clear for those around him. They find him cold hearted and distant. That personal bubble is obvious, and it can be very chilly, particularly for yellows and greens, and so they call their blue friend a bore. Blues can easily make us feel ill at ease. Why is he so cold and dismissive? Doesn't he care about me at all? Better safe than sorry. Think about it, preferably 3 times. A good family friend couldn't leave her house without first checking to see if her keys were really in her handbag, even though placing them there was the last thing she had done before going to the front door. Back in the 1980s, when I worked as a teller in the bank, I served people who had waited 30 minutes in line for just one single reason: to check that the balance printed on the ATM receipt really was correct. Much anticipation, the same computer, the same balance, but you never know. Best to check and double check. If a triple check had been possible, they would have done it. Where does this need for control come from? Why can't blues trust what other people say or just accept the information they hear? Answer: they can, of course, but if they also check themselves, then all the risk will be eliminated, right? But the fact remains that they don't trust others. Everything has to be confirmed and recorded and documented properly. Remember, we are talking here about behavior as perceived by others. A blue checks everything one extra time because it's possible to check everything one extra time. When everything has been confirmed, then you just have to make a decision. I have a good friend who uses Excel diligently, but not like the rest of us. This guy has a special method. He writes a formula and inserts all the data. Before he sends any important files to his senior managers, he does a control check of everything using a calculator. Why does he do that? If you were to explain this to a red, he would declare that guy an absolute idiot. Explain it to a yellow and he would laugh himself to death. Any blue will understand the whole thing immediately. There is a theoretical possibility that there could be errors in Excel. Even though he has typed the formula himself, something may still go wrong. Better to be on the safe side. How do others perceive this? Read on. The only thing I can trust is myself and my own eyes. The guy who questions Excel has, of course, a problem explaining himself. Many people around him have their views about his method of always having to double check and triple check everything he does himself and everything everyone else does. They get furious when he, through his actions, clearly shows that he doesn't trust them. The other tiny little problem is that everything takes a terribly long time. This can be managed by working more hours. What's more problematic is the way relationships can suffer because of this habit. How demoralizing is it is when you go up to someone to tell him about a possible breakthrough, and the first thing the person does is isolate all the different components and call into question every single point. Of course, if everyone looks long enough, they will find mistakes. Nor is it even sufficient to be right. You have to prove yourself to a blue. If he considers you an authority in a particular field, he will be better at listening to you. The road, however, can be tricky. I have held many training courses and lectures on this subject, and if there are people who ask complicated questions, they are usually engineers, technical sales staff, or financial controllers. Maybe a handful of tax lawyers. Oftentimes, their color is blue, and they are not impressed with me. Just because I have made my living doing this for 20 years doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. Remember the woman who was accused of being a perfectionist. The only thing you can do is accept that among these people, the standard of proof will be much higher. Facts always remain as we know. If I have prepared well enough, I can prove that what I am saying is true. In time, they will trust me. Yeah.
Okay, with this we
Uh,
come to end of the chapter. We are getting into the new chapter. Sanjay, would you like to continue, or do you want to hand over
let
to Anil?
no, Anilji wants. Yeah, let Anilji take up now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Learning new things. How to use what you have learned. Learning something new isn't always the easiest of tasks. It may seem simple, but it is not easy. There is always so much to do, so much to read, and so much to learn. Where do you start? This is almost always determined by your personal interest. Naturally, it's easier to devote more time to what you are curious about and what you are interested in. Nothing strange there. For me, it was hearing Stater's assessment of people, his thesis on all the idiots at the start of this book. That becomes the impetus for me to learn about people and how we relate to one another, but it is taken me many years to acquire this knowledge. I have read books, attended training, and been certified many times in different subjects. Furthermore, I have led thousands of courses on the subject. So now, as a middle aged man, I believe I have a decent grasp on how people function. But in all probability, I have only scratched the surface. If we had endless time, there would be no problem. All of this learning has taken time. Maybe I don't have the natural instinct that many others have. I don't really know, but I do know a bit about teaching methods and how we learn new things. And for me, it is difficult to think of any subjects more important than people. No matter what job you have, where life may take you, you are going to meet other people. For example, you can be an employee with work colleagues, a seller with customers, a project manager who leads people with different expertise than your own, a managing directors with employees, a middle manager with people both above and below you in the organization, a self-employed entrepreneur finding your own sales and orders, a parent with teenagers in the household, spouse, a coach for the football team, a chairperson of the local home and school associations. There is no limitation to how this knowledge can be applied. Understanding people will always remain a crucial factor in achieving your goals in life as smoothly as possible, no matter what these goals are. Take a look at the diagram on the next page. This is not a new model, but it says a lot about how theoretical knowledge is transformed into real competence. Reading a book is one thing. I'm glad that you are reading this one. It's a great way to kick off your own learning, but it's only the first step in learning something. Should we read this diagram also? 10% of what we read,
Yeah, you
Rajiv,
continue.
10% of what we reading and verbal receiving, 20% of what we hear, hearing words, 30% of what we see, looking at pictures, 50% of what we hear and see, watching a movie, looking at an exhibit, watching a demonstration, seeing it done on location, visual receiving, 70% of what we say, participating in a discussion, giving a talk, 90% of what we both say and do, doing a dramatic presentation, simulating the real experience, doing the real things, receiving and participating, doing. A new approach. My mission is clear. I want more people to understand this method of classifying behavior. So much conflicts would be avoided if we just understood why the people around us behave the way they do. I have nothing against conflicts. It usually doesn't bother me because I know how to handle it. But when people tear down and destroy more than they build up, I believe that we should be able to find other ways for forwards. Life consists of so much more than learning from your mistakes. Some mistakes you can avoid together. A language like any other language. The language this book discuss, DISA language, IPD, the Institute for Personal Development, which is the official name, works like any other language when it comes to learning. If you have if you have ever studied Spanish or German in school, then you know that I am talking about to study for your exams in one thing. To be able to really speak fluently is a different matter. It is not enough to refresh your knowledge once a year just before a trip to Spain. If you really want to be able to speak Spanish more than just ordering food at a restaurant, whenever you run into the Spanish speaker, you need to practice. It is perishable commodity. They are there are no shortcuts. Of course, after reading this book, you can go out into the world and happily experiment with the people you meet. I advise you to do so. In the beginning, the challenge will be that you are going to guess incorrectly about people's personalities, and that may result in a certain degree of embarrassment. But as you become more fluent in the language of behavior, it will transform how you interact with the people around you. Body language.
Thank you, Anil. Can we hand over to next person?
Okay.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yeah, Pranil.
Yeah,
Pranil, you too.
just a minute. Yes. Body language. Why? How you move matters. How do you really look? Introduction. Different colors exhibit different types of body language. In addition, all things you say and do, you project a certain type of body language to the people around you. People pick up on this body language and use it to interpret your mood. So let's take a closer look at how we move. Body language refers to all forms of non-verbal communication, conscious as well as unconscious. Differences in body language vary both between individuals and between different groups of people. Our body language also functions as a social and cultural marker, even if there are common biological foundations. The modern English language contains about 170,000 words, of which 5,000 are used regularly. In comparison, according to certain scholars, body language contains almost 700,000 signals. Yes, we can debate the exact numbers, but that's not the point. Just understand that there are an immense number of signals, more than we may be aware of. I'm not going to examine all these signals, but it's still interesting to see what the differences are between different behavioral profiles. Just remember our state of mind, situation, and whether we feel safe or unsafe can have a crucial influence on our body language. Posture. If, on the one hand, you have a relaxed, natural, but not slack posture, other people often get the impression that you are self confidence. If, on the other hand, you have a shrunken posture, it can be interpreted as resignation and disappointment. If you have an erect, somewhat wooden posture, people can believe that this is a signal of dominance. In other words, you demand respect from those around you. However, it could also be an indication that you were trained at a military academy. Gaze. We use our eyes for many different things. Shifty eyes generally suggest that the person in question would rather be somewhere else. Other people meet your gaze steadily without even blinking. This creates a totally different impression. It's said that liars can't look you in the eye and they often shift their gaze to the side. But since this is commonly known even among liars, the worst of them have learned to stare you straight in the eyes when they're lying. So nothing is that obvious. Someone who is repeatedly touching his neck is more often an indicator of a liar. When something is awful or unpleasant, many lift their hands up to their faces. And when you need to think, you often close your eyes for a while. Head and face. When speaking, we usually either nod or shake our heads depending on whether we agree or not. When we listen extra carefully to a discussion, we can lean our heads to one side. Hanging your head or wrinkling your forehead can signal sadness or depression. When we are amazed at something, we often raise our eyebrows while we turn up our noses at things we are not fond of. In your face alone, 43 different muscles are concealed, and these can be combined in countless ways. Hands. Yes, this is a true classic. When greeting a person, how hard do you really have to shake his hand? A simple handshake can reveal a lot about a person. Limp and feeble handshakes often indicate a submissive behavior. So, if you have such a handshake, it might be a good idea to press a little harder. If a handshake is firm, it probably suggests that a person is determined. Anyone who squeezes way too hard belongs more than likely to the former category but would refer to belong to the later. Clenched fists rarely mean good news, usually indicative aggressiveness. Certain nervous people pick at their clothes, removing hair or threads. This often indicates they would rather focus their attention on other things. Holding your hands clasped behind your back often expresses power and security. Remember what I just said about lies? A more effective way to spot a liar is to notice if he puts the palm of his hand on his chest, preferably his right hand over his heart, and sighs indigently when he is being accused of lying. Would I lie? How can you say about me? This gesture is intended to strengthen his honest intentions but it immediately puts those around on their guard because it is so unnecessarily excessive. There is definitely something fishy going on there. Yeah, is anyone interested? Should I go ahead?
Continue a few more pages, then we can hand over to Vidya.
All right. Territory. It's very important that all people have their own personal space, as everyone needs an area that is his own. Among other things, this territory can be the distance you maintain from people when you're speaking to them. The personal zone is generally a few feet and the social zone is 3 to 10 feet. When we speak about the personal zone, we mean the space when two people who know each other are communicating. The social zone refers to the space between strangers who are communicating. But this is very much dependent on the culture of the speakers. In the Nordic European region, for example, the personal zone is definitely larger than what someone from the Mediterranean would have. So, what do we do all about this? How do the various forms of behavior differ from one another? It's obvious that some well known facts about body language don't apply to every single person. Someone who is busily picking lint off his sleeve might be bored or he might just be nervous. Another example is how people deal with uncertainty. A green who is unsure leans backwards. A red who is unsure leans forward. As his way of dealing with this uncertainty is to try to dominate the conversation. On the following pages, I have listed further examples of the differences. Try observing people in real life to see if you can find any of the following forms of behavior. But remember, body language is very individual. Sure, there are the general expressions that apply throughout the entire world and among all people. A contemptuous stare, for example, looks similar in every country, but there are so many differences that you will have to study your fellow mortals to sharpen your ability. The following short sections are intended to serve as a simple guide. Red body language. Some basics to keep in mind about Reds. They keep their distance from others. They have powerful handshakes. Red people lean forward aggressively. They use direct eye contact. They use controlling gestures. As I mentioned previously, Reds often have a clear and distinctive body language. You can usually recognize a red from a distance. Right. Yeah. As I mentioned previous, yeah. When you walk through large crowds, you will see people swarming around, standing still, conversing with others, or just checking to see what all the fuss is about. Let's say that you're looking at a town square teeming with people. If you look really closely, you will see a person who is crossing the square at a brisk pace, completely disregarding the people standing in his way. With his gaze fixed on a point a bit in front of him, the red speeds up and crosses the square without any problem. He does not give way but makes others move aside. His steps are decisive and powerful. He expects the rest of us to get out of his way. The first time you meet a red, he usually maintains a certain distance. His handshake won't be hearty, but it will be powerful. Expect that the red man or woman will grip a little bit harder to show who is in charge. Some people consider this alpha male behavior, but it also occurs in women. A red has a need to demonstrate that he is someone to be reckoned with. Forget over exuberant smiles. His face can be downright grim especially if you're attending a business meeting. But even in social settings, reds maintain some reserve. A red won't give you a big bear hug as long as he is sober. Under the influence of alcohol, anything can happen. Yes, is anyone interested? Please go ahead.
Vidya, yeah, we can hand over to Vidya.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. When things start getting tense, which usually happens rather quickly when reds are involved, this guy will lean across the table and argue his case quite forcefully. Eye contact will be very direct, his gaze fixed on you. When it comes to the language of power, reds have their finger on the trigger right from the start. Be prepared for that. Also, be prepared for a relatively limited use of gestures. But those gestures that do surface can be controlling and aggressive. Reds point at people very readily. The notion that it is rude to point at people isn't something that particularly worries him. It's also common that reds point at you by stretching out their hand towards you with the palm facing down. If you want to give this a try, ask someone to point at you that way and think about how it feels. You can clearly see the reds. Of course, they are not alone in this, are mo- in this, are more than willing to interrupt you. They draw their breath continuously, hoping to find gaps in the conversation. If they have to wait too long to speak, they'll throw themselves into the conversation with a loud voice and simply take over. Voice. What about a red tone of voice? It's often strong. We hear those people clearly because they think nothing of raising their voices to make themselves heard, as much as it takes. Of course, even reds can be nervous and worried about things, but usually you won't hear this. Their voices won't tremble that much. This is one of the secrets reds have. No matter what's happening behind the facade, reds will sound convincing. No stammer, no hesitation, finger on the trigger. If we don't listen, they will repeat it one more time, but louder. In the end, they always get through. As I mentioned earlier, reds are always in a hurry. Quick equals good. Normally, this even applies to speech and action. Everything happens at a furious pace. Because speed is the factor many Reds measure success by, it will be all go, and a couple of sharp changes when the course needs adjusting. Yellow
One
body.
moment. One moment. Let me see what's 108. Okay. I think another 4 5 pages we can complete. Yeah, continue.
Mm,
Yellow body language. Okay, we are starting. So far, we
yeah,
have covered
yeah, okay.
red body language. Now we are starting yellow body language.
Yellow body language. Some simple basics to keep in mind about yellows. They are tactile, they are relaxed and jocular. They show friendly eye contact. They use expressive gestures. They often come close. A yellow's body language is often very open and inviting. Smiles appear constantly even when there's not much to smile about. They joke around a lot and can be very relaxed. When visiting a neighbor he doesn't know that well, a yellow may just stretch out on the sofa. But this is typical for yellows. When a yellow feels secure in any situation, you can see it. He's like an open book. The similarity with red behavior lies primarily in the tempo. Yellows move quickly and quite distinctively. They often radiate a strong self confidence. Personal space is a relative thing for yellows. While some colors don't like having people sit too close to them, yellows will willingly move up very close. Yellows can spontaneously start hugging everyone around them, man or woman. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what the feeling and the mood are that day. It's not uncommon for people to recoil when this happens, which yellows find very trying. But it's not just that yellows like hugging. It can also be a simple form of physical contact. A hand placed on an arm, a pat on the leg, with no ulterior motive. The yellow just wants to reinforce what he said, what a yellow perceives as something natural and spontaneous, others can perceive as an invitation, and of course, it can end badly. In general, with yellows, there will be jokes all round and countless smiles. Eye contact is no problem. It's intense, cheerful, and friendly. Voice. A yellow's tone of voice denotes a strong commitment from start to finish. You hear it from afar: laughter, fun, intensity, enthusiasm, joy, energy. Generally speaking, yellows show empathy very clearly. They are with you either 100% of the time or not at all. And this can be heard in their voice. It goes up and down, it changes temper, vigor, and intensity. Yellows often have a powerful melody in their way of speaking. No matter what emotion has seized the yellow at the moment, it will be noticeable in his voice. Speed in speech and deed. Tempo. Not quite the same rate of action as Reds, but a decidedly fast pace. Have you met someone who, when in a hurry to say something, kind of stumbles over his words? Only half of them really come out as they should. You can surmise what is being said, but sometimes it's incomprehensible. There are yellows whose mouths simply can't keep up with everything they have to say. Should I go ahead with green?
We have around 4 pages to complete this chapter. What others say? Can we? Anyone want to read?
No,
Can
I
we?
can read. I just want to
Okay.
know if I should continue.
Yeah, we can continue. I feel
Okay,
we can. Anyone wants to stop here? Is like what language? If
green body language.
yeah, continue.
Some basics to keep in mind about greens. They are relaxed and come close, act methodically, tend to lean backwards, use very friendly eye contact, prefer small scale gestures. Greens are often, but not always, sluggish in body movement. When they are completely harmonious, they have a relaxed body language that exudes calm and confidence. No impetuous movements, no sudden tossing of their hands or heads. Nice and easy. Their gestures are often less flamboyant and well suited for smaller groups. Greens don't feel at ease in larger groups, so they become more closed and will appear reserved. Greens often have body language that gives them away. They try to hide their true feelings but don't always succeed. If they are out of balance or feel uncomfortable, it will be visible. When sitting around a table, you can expect that the greens will tend to lean backwards. This is something of a paradox as they don't really have a problem getting close to people, just like yellows. They like to touch others. However, of touching a green who hasn't given a clear sign that he knows you well enough. It's easy to cross the line. They can be protective of their personal space. You often notice when a red walks across a room. Since greens are the complete opposite of reds in many things, I can say that greens make discretion a point of honor. It's not uncommon that they try to make themselves invisible. The reason? They don't want to be the center of attention. Greens almost always have friendly faces. If not, then they are quiet, neutral. Don't expect any exaggerated smiles or over exuberant greetings. A little expectant, that's it. But the difference will be huge if a green knows you. If he thinks you are good friends, he can be very intimate and friendly. If he feels that you have just met each other, well then, you just have to wait. Let greens come to you. Do not force yourself on them. In time, when they trust you, they'll relax and become more natural. Voice. A green's voice will never be strong. It's not likely that he will drown out the group. You will have to make a little more effort. Even when Greens speak in front of a larger group, they may do this if they don't have any choice. They'll speak as if there were only three of you sitting around the table. Sometimes it may appear that Greens don't see the other 100 people in the room. The volume is generally low and it can be difficult to hear what they say. But their voice will always be soft and radiate warmth. The pace will be slower and the variation not at all like when a yellow speaks. Speech and speed and speech indeed. Generally, greens have a slower pace than reds and yellows, but not quite as slow as blues. Speed has no value in itself. If a heightened tempo risks destroying the cooperation in the group, greens will reduce the speed. It doesn't matter what the deadline is. The most important thing is always going to be how people feel. Blue body language. Some simple basics to keep in mind about blues. They prefer to keep others at a distance. They either stand or sit, often have closed body language, use direct eye contact, speak without gestures. The easiest way to describe a blues body language is to say that he has none. Okay, maybe that's a little that is a bit simplistic. What I mean is that there is not much to interpret in a blue. Neither his face nor his body gives much. Uh, can you go towards the edge of the book, please? Uh, Neither his face nor his body gives much away. When I speak about body language to salespeople, they usually remark that some people are impossible to interpret. When I ask if these are people who sit almost perfectly still without moving even a muscle in their faces, they usually nod and think this is remarkable. They are probably talking about blues. A person who doesn't exhibit much movement or even temperament reveals nothing. In this case, it's the lack of distinctive body language that tells us what we need to know. Many blues can make very dramatic statements with an expressionless face. I once heard a blue manager say that the department was to close and that we had to agree on a decommissioning plan for their 300 employees. Not a muscle in his face moved unnecessarily. This is what gives people the idea that blues lack feelings. But this is naturally not true. Let me remind you again that the blue is an introvert, which is to say, most of his emotions simply operate beneath the surface. It also works the other way. Once, many years ago, I saw a lady win $500,000 on television. Behind the camera, her husband was heard screaming for joy, while the lady herself sat very still with a cool smile. The host smiled and waved his arms around, and for a while you had to remember you had you, you had to wonder who had actually won. But the lady herself said nothing more than "Thank you, that was nice." She hardly moved at all. And I don't think it was because she was already a millionaire. It was because she was blue. This is simply the way it works. Beneath the surface, I assume that she was delighted with her winnings, but she didn't show it outwardly. One day, I will call the channel and ask if they still have the recording because it's such a vivid illustration. When you see blues speaking in front of larger groups, this tendency becomes a very evident. Just like greens, they have no need to be the center of attention. The difference, however, is that while a green would like to sink through the floor, a blue will remain standing. He'll try to whip up the the masses while standing completely motionless with a fixed face. Another clue is that blues require a relatively large amount of personal space around them. They often feel more comfortable by keeping others at a distance. Naturally, it depends on how well they know each other, but this zone is significantly larger than it is for yellows, for instance. If others come too close, blue's body language becomes closed. Both arms and legs will be crossed, indicating that they are keeping their distance. As I mentioned earlier, blues move less than others. When they stand still. There's not that much swaying and walking. They can very easily stand in the same spot for a whole hour without giving a lecture. When they sit down, they remain seated more or less in the same position all the time. Consequently, they won't use many gestures. Imagine a yellow, a really outgoing and dynamic figure, and now think the opposite. Take away the movements that aren't needed, most of them according to blues, and you begin to get the picture, stone faced as someone described it. However, blues normally look others straight in the eyes. They have no problem with eye contact, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Voice. Though not exactly weak, a blues voice is restrained and subdued. They don't make much of a fuss about themselves. Their impression tends to be controlled. It's common for them to sound very pensive, as if weighing every word before it's allowed to see the light of day. Generally, there's little or no variation in a blues voice. He sounds more or less the same all the time. Whether he's reading the TV guide or giving his acceptance speech to the nation after winning the presidential election. Without much rhyme or melody, he just continues to say what's on the script. Musicians tend to have difficulty with this. They think everything a blue says flows badly. Speed in speech and deed. Slow, at least if we compare it to others. If we take a red or even a yellow, he'll speak at the speed of sound. A blue has a completely different pace. It will take as long as it takes. Speed is of no interest.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anjali. Thank you, Anil, Tanavi, and Vidya for your beautiful reading. And we have covered a good number of pages today. The one good thing is we started exactly 7:02 for today's reading. That's why we are able to cover too much. As I requested every day, as I request every day, please you join sharp at 7 o'clock so that we can um, cover more pages and also we will have some time. Today we have extended some more time to read to complete the particular chapter. Otherwise, it will be in the middle of the pages. Then that will be confused to start something uh, tomorrow. Today we have covered three chapters: how blue people perceived, which was a continued reading what we have done the last 2 days. Then we have read about the learning new things, and then the body language. When I was reading the body language part, I felt like I think this is the book is not only for just reading. This is a kind of study book. Studying the particular book, we have to, if if you are people-oriented person, or if you are managing people, this book is very helpful to understand how people behaves and how we have to how we can understand people by the body language that we have covered. We can discuss one by one. The first part we have discussed about that how blue people perceive. Anyone would like to share something about the first chapter or the first part we covered today? How blue people perceived. Hello. Okay. So the blue people, I think let me have it. I think some of you have not joined.
In
Yeah.
short, in short, I can just coin into one word.
Mhm.
Blue people are usually, they're very logical and they're set for perfection, and they're quite energetic. But then they just perfectly work on their goals, irrespective of the situations or the people around them. In short, that's the only word I can tell all about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So the blue personalities, they are very analytical, detail-oriented persons. They are logical, and also they are looking for accuracy and structure. Many times, I think I would like to share an incident with my team. I think that's one non-profit. The volunteer organizations I've been belong to this one. I always insist people to have a follow the structure, but that makes sometimes a conflict with others. I think people wouldn't be able to follow, and they just take it as it's a volunteer. Why should I do follow the process, everything? But if you want to make something, the blue people sometimes the blue they follow the process. It will make it systematic. We don't need to something. Okay, we don't need to put our energy all times. When we follow something, everything is placed. Something we have to start in the particular time, we have to start. Something we have to update this place, and we have to update so that it will be regularized. But here, sometimes people won't agree with that. Why should I do? I think let me go on flow. Let me do whatever the particular time requires. It will, we can adopt and we can continue. But the blue people cannot accept it. I can when we were reading the particular chapter, I was relate to that some of things, my behaviors or my demands with people, my ask with people. Please, you follow the system, you update everything. If you cannot bring something if you feel complicated. One skill I have adopted from my manager, my previous manager. He says, if something goes wrong, he doesn't say anything. That time he will completely leave. How we can avoid this problem in the future? Make a checklist. When you are doing the same activity, something the same similar thing, you make sure that you are following the checklist. That will help you avoid or repeating the same mistake again. Sometimes when you are engaging with people, the blue people, you are more organized. And yeah, sometimes you may feel they are boring as well, and they are also much demanding people also. But the work will be done, and there will be something, the assurance of something getting it done. Anyone would like to share on these thoughts about what we have read on that blue people are perceived, or do we have any opposite comments, or then any uh, against my comments, whatever I have said about the blue?
So Rajeshji, I
Yeah.
think I endorse your thoughts. So what this book says ki that 95% right is actually the 100% wrong. If the
Yeah, yeah,
blue, so if the blue person, that the assurance part, that the if the blue persons are there, we can be rest assured ki that the things will go right. But only point ki that the time, ki that how they will finish the things on time. So if they can complete the things and they can bring some change in their process ki that it 90 85 90% is correct, so and then give the finishing touch to everything, so then their manager or their boss can be relaxed ki that he is there, then I need not to worry and the things and the process will be right. So that way, so but if they completely stick that key that I need to go 100% perfect, so then it can be the messy and it can the things can go wrong and then the things will not complete on time within the deadline. So only that is the point. Otherwise the blue person said the things right, they do with all the process compliance, they complete as per those, so then that way that is correct. Only the thing, they if they mindful about the time, then their manager or boss can be relaxed and can be rely on those blue people.
yeah, 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 yeah. Sometimes I think the blue people, I think they are not happy with, even though if they have done something, they always point and regret about what mistake happened. Yes, many times I also felt, I think when we had a meeting, sometimes I always worry about what went wrong. There are so many things, of good things happened. Some people take this as some good things. Hey, we made something better in this way, but the blue concern about we could have done better on this way, or we could have taken this action in this angle. That's why we think we were always looking to perfections. I would like to share one another small example. A week back, when we started this book reading, I shared a video about this book. I think the introduction about the book, because I haven't read the book, just prepare something, and I want to share something about this book to ask people, uh, ask people to join us book reading sessions. There's just a 2 minute, I think 1 minute, 2 minute video. I have taken around 20 takes. I would have taken this first video and then I would have posted it, but I was not happy with that mistake. I think I could not say this. Still, that video has a lot of mistakes, something, but I was not able to accept that one, and I was pushing myself. Let me take again. Let me take again. Let me take again. Because of that reason, we are wasting time and looking into something perfections, something not satisfied all time. Okay. Anyone have any thoughts? Let me move to that next chapter. Anyone want to have share about how blue?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would like to talk about an example. Somebody in my family, actually my cousin,
Mhm.
uh, he he is a blue. Completely, he won. He is a tennis player, or used to be a tennis player, tennis coach, runs his own tennis academy, and all this. Um, and he also got played for India in various games, has won many games. But the thing is that people always say, his own parents and people who watch him play say that he is one of the most still people. Even if he wins, he doesn't show it. If he loses also, he doesn't show his disappointment. So, whereas his opponents, they say that, for tennis players, they should actually act out their emotions. If they're feeling very happy, they should, encourage themselves. They should, show their fists and everything. And if they are unhappy, they should actually, say that, tell themselves that, yeah, you can do better, keep encouraging themselves. So there is a lot of self-talk that is involved in any tennis game. But this guy doesn't do any talking. He's absolutely still. He goes, he wins, he loses. Everything is the same for him. So afterwards, he got married, and his wife is a typical emotional red person. And she is like, she wants communication, she wants interaction. She will say something, and he'll say, okay. So she feels, she was saying that sometimes she feels a little frustrated with his lack of interaction, because for her, she wants that close debating. She wants somebody to fight with her. She wants somebody to argue with her. But he is like, absolutely, okay, you want this, let's do it. So he doesn't really seem to be engaged or involved in anything. So that was her complaint against him. He's a very nice person, everything good about him, but I'm just finding I really don't know what he's thinking. So I was just thinking about their interaction and their relationship as a red and a blue, and it somehow seemed very funny to me. Now that I'm reading this book, now I can relate to what they were going through.
Thanks, Vidya, for bringing out the live example, the practical example. Whatever you said, even I heard about that PV Sindhu when she was practicing, and she was not sharing emotion. She was not expressing whenever the winning moments. She was not expressing. That means that people react cheering up on all those things, right? They don't do that. She did not do that. The coach, I think Kopichand or someone, uh, whatever the post, the coach, he insisted you have to express whenever you make something winning moment. You make express that. I hear from someone. I think I can correlate with that. Whatever the incident you have shared now. Okay, thank you, and let's jump into that next
yeah,
chapter. Let
I
me.
would
Yeah,
like to
yeah, Pranali.
tell one more point,
Yeah.
which may be useful for the parenting as well. Um, if the blue people, I mean, their brains are wired in such a way that they want a proper structure to execute things. They want only logic to be done and all that. So, actually, here, uh, I mean, as they're wired like that, they're used to that structuring and all that. They usually can't think out of the box, because again, out of the box is like you need to have certain creativity. You need to keep your mind open in all the directions, but then they are already framed for each and everything. They keep framing things, they keep framing the plans and all that. So due to that, they may lack creativity. But as I said, nature gives everything to everyone, so we need to enjoy every flavor of it. So it's not that they have to think out of the box or anything as such. But then blue people usually they don't get set in the creative field. Because I'm seeing right now my two kids. My boy is blue and my girl is totally creative. She hates structures. She hates timetables. because she feels that her brain has been under a deep pressure. So it's like that is, if you say it as a disadvantage or contrary to what you have spoken, I can tell that blues are not that creative enough. So as that, so I mean, if you wanted to make the child to learn anything, or any stuff, trust me, don't take the blue personalities, because blue personalities, they don't have the capacity to think out of the box. Rather, you can go for the yellow personalities as such. So, I mean, in contrary to that, that is the thing I've got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pradevi. I think I feel like that you are telling to me. I can correlate with that. I think sometimes, yeah, whatever you said, yeah, that's, I agree with that. Okay, now the second chapter, I think I will take another, if you give me permission, I will take another 4 minutes. I'm so sorry, extending your time. Another important chapter, I think the next chapter we have is about the learning new things. The percentage of, okay, when you are reading, how much we observe, and when we are doing watching at the picture, and when we are doing the visual receiving, how much we receive. See, that is what we do. That I think this, you just joining a book reading by your own, how much you can absorb by joining our book club session, by reading and discussing, that will give you 70% of what we have read. Pranavi, I think you may please you off your video. We can see. Yeah, I think that's a one good table. How much percentage of you can absorb from our learning patterns, from what we read, hear, watch, and implement all those things. Okay, the next one, the big part we have covered about the body language from each section. Anyone would like to share anything? I think this part, I think little hot for me. I think I have to reread this part to understand. There are so many things he has discussed. Anyone would like to share your thoughts about body language part? We have read all 4 patterns of the body language: the red, yellow, blue, and green. He has clearly explained about how the people behave, and how their expressions, and how they express the thoughts, and how they make the body language at the situations in the different color patterns. Anyone would like to share any thoughts about this reading?
Rajesh, you mean to say about the author or the
No, the body
character?
language. No, this section, I think I'm talking about that. We have read the third
Yes.
chapter, body language part of all these 4 color traits. Whatever he have read, I think he has, I think simple things he has covered. How is the posture, and how is the look, how is the head and face, how the hand movements, and each character, I think each color characters, how they have expressed their body language, and what is it meaning, all these things. I think this part is not just a read. We have to study this part if really someone interested to know about people psychology and the people behavior. Okay, please take your time, and if you want, you can reread this part, and I will also share the insights, the summary after this session. Thank you so much. I think today we have extended 11 more minutes, and we also started at 7:02 this time. Today, I think we were around 3 or 4 people. We just started. I would request everyone, please, you don't wait. You just join sharp at 7 o'clock. The meeting room will be open by 6:58, 57, and we can start reading 7. Don't waste much time we can start reading. Yeah, we are going well, and I would like to meet you all once again tomorrow morning at sharp at 7 a.m. And
Thank you.
please
Bye.
share your thoughts if anything. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Yeah,
Have a
thank you
great
all.
day.
You all
Thank
have
you.
a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.